Well, we're jumping into part 3 of our series, Starve the Algorithm, Feed Your Soul. And you've been brave enough to come back today for part 3. And if you haven't been with us, we've been talking about what are the algorithms doing to your soul. That for all of us, we have these feeds that are on our screens all the time. And there's part of us that's really realizing, hey, there's something about this that is changing us. There's something about this that is shaping us. And in Proverbs, it says, man, you want to guard your heart, for the condition of your heart determines the direction of your life. And so you want to be careful about what's shaping your soul. You want to be intentional about it. And the reason we're having the conversation is because something has changed. We used screens for a long time as our lens to see the world. We looked at the world through screens, but now they're actually watching us back. They're learning us. They're continuing to listen to us and learn from us and decide, okay, I want to show you whatever it takes to keep you on the screen. The very first week of the series, I mentioned Tai Chi videos, okay? And I said, hey, I keep getting these Tai Chi videos in my algorithm, and I have had many people reach out to me and say, hey, thanks for that. Now I'm getting Tai Chi videos. And how many people in Aurelia are here? Put your hand up if you've seen a Tai Chi video in the last week. See, there's a bunch of you, right? I'm sorry. I said it out loud. The algorithm was listening. Now you're all seeing Tai Chi videos. But what's happening is it's learning. It's learning, and it's saying, hey, whatever it takes to keep you on the screen, whatever it takes to keep you distracted. In fact, the algorithm isn't just about distraction anymore. It's about formation. That it's time we actually realize that, man, when it's putting these things in front of us to keep us on the screen, it's not just distracting us, it's starting to form us. It's forming how we see the world. It's forming what we think about politics. It's forming what we think about God. It's forming what we think about health. It's forming, in a sense, what we think about everything. And we want this series to be as practical for you as possible. And last week we talked about how to retrain your algorithm. And if you go to our website at the bottom, there's a tool there to retrain. There's one for TikTok, one for Instagram, one for Facebook, one for YouTube. If you're like, hey, man, my feed needs a correction. I need a healthier feed in front of me. There are instructions how to do that. And we're going to have a genius bar here next week. If you're like, man, I can't get these things to work. I'm still seeing this junk in my feed. These people will be experts to help you. Now, they're not experts on like, how do I upload my photos to the cloud or all that. I can't get my email. They're not going to be experts for that, but they will be experts around the algorithm because we want to get in your corner and help you with this. Now, today we're talking about truth and lies, and in particular, I want to talk about voices. I don't know if there's any time in human history where individuals like you and I have dealt with so many voices in our lives. That just on our phones alone, there's hundreds, if not thousands of voices a day trying to get our attention. It feels like there are 1,000 voices trying to continue to convince us how we should live, how we should parent, what we should do with our money, what we should think politically, what we should pay attention to, what we shouldn't pay attention to. And what's happening is there are just so many voices, it's hard to know what to do. And sometimes we end up jumping from this to this to this to this, and it's like we're 1,000 voices wide and an inch deep in our souls. I would argue that our lives are full of voices and void of meaning. That we're struggling to find meaning in our world. So many people are struggling to find something of depth, something that's real, and at the same time, they've got all of these voices that are overwhelming, and I think if we're honest, they just make us pretty tired after a while. Now, it's interesting about the voices that we get in our algorithm, these voices that we get every single day, is the algorithm isn't deciding which are true or which are false. The algorithm isn't deciding, oh, these are the ones that are true and these are the ones that are false. It's not saying to you, oh, I'm just going to push you the true ones. The algorithm is neutral. The algorithm doesn't decide what's true. It's just choosing what voices to amplify. It's going to amplify whatever it takes to get your attention. It's neutral. It's not discerning what's true and what isn't. It's just discerning whatever it takes to keep you on the screen. I'm a big Blue Jays fan. Any Blue Jays fans? Some? Okay, great, good. Welcome to the bandwagon. And so the Blue Jays were looking to re-sign a player named Bo Bichette. And I started following this really closely. And if you're a Blue Jay fan like me, you did the same. And you know what happened? It was crazy the kind of stuff that was coming into my feed. That they signed him here, that no, they traded him here, that they paid this. And when I would dig down, I'd find out half of the things that were coming in my feed weren't true. But in order to read them, I was clicking on them. And the more I clicked on them, the more I got them. There were AI-generated articles, all kinds of articles that were there. I would say 80% of them weren't really true. And some of them were kind of half-truths. But all of them were determined to get my attention. And they just kept coming into my feed. The algorithm doesn't say, hey, I'm going to discern for you what's true and what isn't. I'm just going to give you whatever you're going to click on and stay on the screen. We did a survey today that said this. It said, when you see something online that feels convincing, what do you usually do first? Okay, so here are the answers to our poll. All right, so what you do first, believe it and move on. That's 5%. Feel unsure, but scroll past 18%. Get curious and look for more context. 71%, you think very well of yourselves, okay? And then share it if it fits what I already think. There's this element of we want to know more. We see it and we think, is this true? Right? Did this really happen? Like, I'm not really sure. And that's how, like, I end up down. All of a sudden, 30 minutes later, I'm like, I'm still on YouTube down this rabbit hole trying to figure it out. How do we know what's true and how do we know what isn't? How do we know what's a lie and how do we know what isn't? Now, here's part of the problem. Part of the problem is we mistake truth for something. In fact, we would mistake truth for many things, and I want to show you what some of them are. These are what can be mistaken for truth online. The first one is popularity. We look at something and think, well, man, it has 1 million likes. It must be true. Oh, look at all the views it has. Look at all the people who've shared it. It must be true. Now, it could be a Russian AI bot that shared it, but we don't know. And we think, well, it must be true. Or it's constantly in our feed, right? We end up getting it from here, and then we get it. I've seen this 4 different things from 4 different newscasters in my feed. It must be true. We think repetition is true. But repetition is just the algorithm continuing to feed me false stories about Beau Bichette. Just the more I got didn't make it more true. And then you've got this overconfidence. This people say something so confidently, you think, man, look how slick that video is. Production is great. This must be true. You know that this week, I got this, and maybe you got this. I got in my feed, and don't judge me, this video. And it was like, Celine Dion and Jelly Roll have come out with a new duet. And I was like, oh, this is really interesting. And I clicked on it, and I watched it, and I was like, man, Celine Dion, Jelly Roll, and like, then I start watching the whole thing's AI. It's not even real. They don't even have a song together. I don't even know if they've ever met each other. But it looks so good, right? Was so confidently done, it made me overconfident. And we do that when we see stuff and we think, oh, well, this is saying what I believe, so it must be right. And then there's the emotion of it. Emotion can really push the buttons of truth. If it makes me feel angry, if it makes me feel empathetic, if it makes me feel sad, it must be true. And what the algorithm is always trying to do is turn up the volume. To turn up the volume because it keeps your attention. See, the algorithm trains us to trust the loudest voices, not the truest ones. The algorithm isn't out there trying to let me find the most accurate thing and give it to you. What it's trying to do is let me find the things that you love clicking on and turn them up the loudest. So how do you stay healthy when the algorithm will actually leverage lies unknowingly to just keep your attention, to just hold you on the screen? What do you do with 1,000 voices? That's what I want to talk about today. And what I want to do is I want to start with what I would say is a very spiritual question in my mind. And the question is, where do lies come from? If you're here today and you're exploring the Christian faith, keep leaning in. We're really excited you're here. And in the Christian faith, we really believe that lies actually are a spiritual thing. And we don't have time to look at it all today, but I'm going to give you a really quick kind of framework for how the Christian faith across Scripture actually talks about where lies come from, the root of lies, and why they're spiritual. And here's kind of the framework. Lies originate with the devil. Now, you might say, I have a hard time with the devil or some sort of personal force of evil, but we really believe that. We believe there's a personal force of evil called the devil who brings deceptive ideas into our world. Now, if you don't agree with the devil, I think you would agree that there is likely evil in our world that has deceptive ideas. You probably agree with that. Deceptive ideas like greed, deceptive ideas like anger, right? That it's justified to get angry to get what I want. Or greed, which is, well, whatever I want, I should get more. Those are deceptive ideas in our world. And what happens is they find root in our flesh, which is kind of our disordered desires. The scripture would call that the sin in our lives. And what happens is, this happens to us. We get this deceptive idea. Well, whenever I have this, I should have more. And so we start to twist that and disorder it even more. We say, oh, yeah, like my neighbor, they have that car. I should have a car like that. They put on a new deck. I know I don't have the money, but I deserve a new deck. They bought a new snowblower. I've been shoveling by hand. I deserve a new snowblower, even though I'm broke. And so what do? We put it on the credit card. We leverage it. We get more car than we should. We get more house than we should. And you know what happens? It becomes, well, they're doing it, so I should do it. And they're doing it, and they're doing it, so why don't we all do it? And that's what happens is we begin to normalize it. Our world starts to say, hey, this broken thing is actually normal. Everyone's doing it. And that's when you end up with a culture that's underwater with debt. A lie has become normalized in the world. These are how lies get a hold of an entire culture. And the reason I share this with you is because I want you to realize that when we talk about what's true and what are lies online, this is actually a spiritual conversation. This is actually about what's shaping your soul. It's not just about getting your facts straight. It's about what's shaping you. And the question is, how do I know the truth from the lies? And today I want to look actually at two teachings from Jesus about how we discover truth. And the first one is in Matthew 7. And we're going to jump into the middle of it. But what's happening in Matthew 7 is there are false prophets, false teachers, who are saying they're speaking for God, but what they're actually doing is they're doing it for selfish reasons. They don't actually have the best interests of the people in mind. And they're twisting truth and they're telling lies in order to gain for themselves. And Jesus wants to show people how to distinguish when it comes to false prophets. And he says this, he says, beware of false prophets who come disguised as harmless sheep, but are really vicious wolves. How do you find these false teachers? He says, you can identify them by their fruit. That is, by the way they act. This is a theme across all of Scripture, in particular the New Testament, that the way you can find out if someone is telling the truth and trustworthy is by inspecting the fruit of their lives. To look at how they actually live out their life. He says, can you pick grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? And for them, this would make sense because thorn bushes and thistles were burned. You didn't grow fruit on them. So they're like, well, no. He's saying, okay, well, a good tree produces good fruit and a bad tree produces bad fruit. A good tree cannot produce bad fruit and a bad tree cannot produce good fruit. This again is echoed across Scripture. This theme of like wherever someone is rooted is going to show up in their life. Right? Who are the people that it's hardest to hide from when it comes to the integrity of your life and how you behave? It's your own family. Because they're the closest to you. They see you every day. Right? They see you when you haven't brushed your teeth and when you have bedhead and when you're not feeling well and all of those things. You can't hide from them. They see how you live your life. And what Jesus is saying is, man, the way to find out if someone is truthful and trustworthy is to get close to them, to be able to see the fruit of their life. He says, every tree that does not produce good fruit is chopped down and thrown into the fire. Yes, just as you can identify a tree by its fruit, so you can identify people by their actions. If you want to know if someone is telling the truth, get up close, look at their fruit, and you can discern by their actions. Another way to say this is proximity is the fastest way to truth. If you want to know truth, get up close and personal with someone. It's interesting to me, a lot of people who would say, hey, I'm a Christ follower or a part of the Christian faith, when you talk to people, many people have a celebrity pastor, right? They have somebody out there who they follow, who's famous, who they watch them preach, or they've read all their books, and they're like, oh, I just love this person. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's interesting how we're so quick to trust people that are so far away. Now, why is that? Well, because the people who are close to us, we actually see their faults, right? In fact, if you attend this church, you've been attending for 15 years or 20 years or 5 years or 5 minutes, I guarantee I've ticked you off at some point. I've said something you're like, I don't really agree with that. I can't believe he did that. I mean, I talked to him in the lobby, and I mean, he just took off. He didn't pay attention. Like, because I'm not doing it on purpose, but like I'm a human being. I make mistakes. And because of proximity, you see my mistakes. You see my fruit and not my fruit. You see the fruit I'm growing and where I'm not, where I'm struggling. And you don't see that from celebrity pastor number 3. You know, I'm not a celebrity pastor. Nobody but my mom is taking selfies with me at the front here, okay? But it's proximity that's the fastest way to get to truth. And there's such power in proximity because that's the beauty of the local church. How you can get in circles with people, small groups, or join a team here and build relationship with people. And you see their fruit and they see your fruit. And I love when I can look at someone's life here and say, man, Leslie and I want to have a marriage like them, or I want to have integrity like this person, or I want to get into my Bible like that person. Because when I inspect their fruit, I want to be like that. And the other thing that's powerful is that they have the ability to inspect the fruit of my life. And to actually speak truth into my life, to have people with you who can say, listen, I want to speak truth into your life. I want to help you understand this. We're all on a journey together, discovering what Jesus would have for us. See, I think what we do is we overvalue the algorithm and we undervalue the people next to us. And you know this. You know this in the moments where you realize I'm on my phone and my kid's sitting right here. I'm on my phone and we're all at the restaurant and everybody's on their phone. You realize this when you go, oh shoot, I need to put my phone down. My kid wanted to play and I didn't realize. But I think it also happens when it comes to seeking truth in our lives. That when it comes to inspecting fruit and people speaking into our lives and us speaking into their lives, they're right here. And we spend so much of our life out there online trying to find something when the realest thing is the person right next to us. But that doesn't help us in the sense of, but there is online, Jeff. There are people's fruit who I can't inspect. How do I know what's true when I can't inspect the fruit? How do I know what's true when I see stuff online? How do I figure out what's true and what isn't true because I can't get close to them? I can't inspect their fruit. Well, I mean, first of all, there's an element of realizing that. Realizing that you don't really know the person that's sharing this, you don't really know where this is coming from, and to come with a spirit of intentional discernment and asking good questions and being curious. But how else can you know what is true in a world of a million voices out there? And what I want to do is share with you another teaching from Jesus in John 10. Now, this is an interesting one. Jesus uses a parable, which is a story that teaches. And what's happening at this time is the people are reflecting on a historical time when religious leaders led them astray for selfish reasons. And Jesus is also challenging the current religious leaders about the fact that they're not telling people the truth. And he wants to help these people understand, hey, when the voices of leaders in your life aren't telling the truth, how can you tell? And then he tells this story about sheep. Now, the Bible uses, and Jesus really often uses sheep as a metaphor for you and for me. And it's like part insult, part compliment. Because he uses sheep because sheep are dumb, right? Sheep are not smart. They kind of get into trouble all the time. They don't make good decisions. They follow. And when they don't make good decisions, they follow each other. Right? It's nothing like you're a shepherd and you've got sheep, and all of a sudden you see one sheep, and all of a sudden you're like, why are 10 of them up there on that mountain? Like, why did they go that? Like, they all went the wrong way. Like, there's something about sheep that the shepherd just continues to see them mess up and make bad decisions. Sound familiar? But at the same time, the sheep are incredibly valuable to the shepherd. That's why there's another parable about the shepherd who leaves the 99 to go after the one. Because a sheep is so valuable. And so there's a Jesus who sees us in all of our mess and sees incredible value. And he uses this picture of discerning truth when it comes to sheep. And he says this, I tell you the truth. Anyone who sneaks over the wall of a sheepfold rather than going through the gate must be a thief and a robber. So every community had a sheep pen outside of the community, and everybody would put their sheep in there at night. So that's why he's talking about this sheepfold. So they would mix all the flocks together, and then there would be a gate, and often that gate, actually you'd have like a stone fence, and often that gate would be a shepherd themselves sleeping there. He says, but the one who enters through the gate is the shepherd of the sheep. The gatekeeper opens the gate for him, whether they have a gate or the shepherd is the gate. And the sheep recognize his voice and come to him. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. Interesting thing when you look at sheep and shepherds, even in this part of the world today, they have an intimate relationship with their sheep. You can see a flock of sheep go by and two of them get mixed together and the shepherd can go, oh, those three are mine. He knows them all individually. And you can have 200 sheep from all different flocks in a pen, and a shepherd can walk up, that's the illustration he's giving here, and call them, and those 20 sheep will all come out together. And the others will stay in the pen. That they all know the voice of the shepherd. That they all know when the shepherd is calling them. That he knows them and they know him. And it doesn't matter who calls, they'll only come to the shepherd whose voice they know. What Jesus is trying to get at here is proximity to Jesus is the way to truth. He's saying when there are 1,000 voices out there, all trying to get your attention, the goal is not to try to interpret 1,000 voices, but the way to begin is to lean into the voice who calls your name, the one who is truth. See, if you're here today and you're exploring truth and you're exploring the Christian faith and you're wondering about, you're like, man, I'm on this journey to truth. I get that. And you're asking questions and you want more information and you're out there online trying to find information and you're looking at your feed and you're trying to figure it out and you're on this quest for truth. Here's the bottom line of the Christian faith. Truth isn't a destination. It's actually a person. That's what Jesus is getting at here. He's saying, if you want to know what's true, you've got to know my voice. That the closer you get to me, the more proximate you are to me, the more you will know what's true. And he goes on to explain, it says, after he gathered his own flock, he walks ahead of them, and they follow him because they know his voice. They won't follow a stranger. They will run from him because they don't know his voice. It's interesting. He says, they follow me because they know my voice. Any stranger can try. Other people can try. Other voices can try to get their attention. Other voices can try to distract them. Other voices can try to get a different message to them. Other voices can try to shape them. But they know my voice, and as a result, they will only listen to everything through my voice. I think that the question for some of us is, can you distinguish the voice of Jesus? In all of the thousands of voices that are out there trying to get your attention, do you have the ability to hear Jesus? Do you have the ability to know what he would say to you about that topic, about that video, about what's coming in your feed? Do we know the voice of Jesus? Cal Newport wrote a book called Digital Minimalism, and he uses this phrase that I like. He talks about solitude deprivation. And what he's talking about is the fact that we struggle from solitude deprivation, that we are never alone with just our thoughts, right? Some of you are like, I have never been alone with my thoughts since I got my first pair of AirPods, right? Everywhere you go, you've got one in, you're listening to one, you've got music on, you've got a phone with you. And I'm talking about like pure solitude, like just sitting there with nothing. No coffee even. How dare I, right? It's so rare that we experience real solitude. And the question I'm asking is this. Would we be willing to choose true solitude and instead of being just alone with our thoughts, open our Bibles and say, man, what would it mean, Jesus, to know more of your voice? Help me to know your voice so that I can pick it out of the 1,000 voices. It's like when you see 20 kids screaming, Mom, 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 in a soccer team, and somehow all the moms know which kid's saying Mom. They can pick out the voice. They know the voice. Would we be able to pick your voice out, Jesus, amongst 1,000 voices? Would we be able to know what you would say in this situation? And it means learning his voice. And what might challenge you in this is to actually not get defensive about your screens, but get offensive about your screens. This is what I mean. We often approach our screens when we have conversations like this on the defense. Well, you know what I need? I need a fast from my phone. You know what I need? I need to delete my apps for a month. You know what I need to do? I need to set aside my computer in the evening. And I'm not saying those things are bad, but to me, it's all defense. It's all defense. What I'm saying is, let's go on offense. Let's say, hey, what would it mean to learn the voice of Jesus? Like, what if I actually didn't just set aside my screen to set it aside, but set it aside that I might spend 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour with my Bible open, reading something of Jesus and saying, Jesus, help me to be able to hear your voice amongst 1,000 voices. Give me the opportunity to learn what you would say, what you would think, what you would teach. Let me sit down and get proximity to you. This is what he says in John 10. He says, those who heard Jesus use this illustration, they didn't understand what he meant. So he explained it to them. I tell you the truth. I am the gate for the sheep. All who came before me were thieves and robbers, but the true sheep did not listen to them. Yes, I am the gate. And it's this image of the shepherd as the gate in the gap. Those who come in through me will be saved. They will come and go freely, and they will find good pastures. The thief's purpose is to steal and kill and destroy, but my purpose is to give them a rich and a satisfying life. What's so interesting to me about the shepherd here is the shepherd doesn't drive the sheep out of the pen. The shepherd doesn't go in the pen and go, come on, guys. Doesn't come with like a sheep prod. He's not pushing them out. He's not dragging them out. He's calling them out. And when he calls them out, they follow. Why is it that they just come? Why is it that they just follow? Because they know he has good pastures in store for them. They know he has good things in store for them. They know he has a rich and satisfying life for them. And the thief comes to steal and kill and destroy. And many people would look at the thief as the devil, where the root of lies is from, where those deceptive ideas begin. And he's saying, listen, I want what's best for you. I want what's best. You need to learn my voice because amongst all the voices, I'm the one that's actually looking out for you. I'm the one that wants what's best for you. They didn't follow because he demanded it. They follow because he wants what's best. And they say, I believe, Jesus, that you want what's best for me. And in all the voices that I see online and all of the time I spend on my screen, the number one voice I want to know is yours because you're the one who actually wants what's best. You're the one that's actually looking out for me. When all of the voices are screaming at us just to keep our attention on our screens so that they might sell to us or they might get more views from us, or they might convince us of whatever they want to convince us, they're not looking out necessarily for us. But Jesus says, my voice is looking out for what's best for you. He says this, I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd sacrifices his life for the sheep. He says, a hired hand will run when he sees a wolf coming. He'll abandon the sheep because they don't belong to him and he isn't their shepherd. He says, hey, everyone else, they're not actually owners of the sheep. They're not shepherds. They just want to take. Their goal is to take. He says, and so the wolf attacks them and scatters the flock, and the hired hand runs away because he's working only for money, and he doesn't actually really care about the sheep. See, the algorithm, I'm not saying it's good or it's bad, but I am telling you it doesn't care about you. It just wants your attention. Anything to keep your attention. And we'll scroll and scroll and scroll, looking for more and more meaning that isn't there. And Jesus says, if you can hear my voice, I'm the one who actually wants what's best for you. But would you trust me in that? In the sea of competing voices, do you trust that Jesus wants what's best for you? Because if you don't, you'll keep seeking and you'll keep searching. You can go to ChatGPT and you can go to your algorithm and you can scroll and scroll and you can go down the YouTube rabbit hole and you can look and look and look and look and look. But at the end of the day, all those things just want your attention, right? You buy something on Amazon, what's the first thing it says? Thank you? No, it says, you may also like anything to keep your attention. ChatGPT, have you ever noticed? It always thinks you're the best, right? You ask it a great question. You ask one question. Great question. You're such a great question asker. Here's the answer. Thanks so much. Here's 8 other things I could do for you. Want me to do those? Oh yeah, do this one and do that one. Okay, great. I did those. 8 other things I can do. Want me to do those? Stay, 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 stay. Don't go, don't go, don't go. And some of you are like, I really thought I was the best. You're telling me, yeah. Anything to keep your attention. It's not necessarily good or bad, I'm just saying it doesn't have your best interests in mind. All of these voices don't have your best interests in mind. They just want to keep your attention. And they're doing whatever it takes to keep it. And in a sea of all of these voices, would you trust the voice that actually wants what's best for you? He says, I am the good shepherd. I know my own sheep, and they know me. Just as my Father knows me and I know my Father, so I sacrifice my life for the sheep. And this is where Jesus begins to point to the cross. Man, the incredible news of the good news of Jesus is that he knows you, like the shepherd who knows his sheep. He knows everything about you, all the terrible stuff, the good stuff, all the things you wish you'd done differently, the regrets you have, the crap you carry, the trauma that happened to you. He sees it all and he says, man, you are so messed up and so valuable. So valuable that I would give my life for you. That you might have forgiveness, that you might have relationship with me, that I might make you right, that I might speak a rich and satisfying life into your soul. Are the online voices giving up their lives for you? No, they're taking. They're taking. And it's not an intentional thing where there's a diabolical person behind a keyboard somewhere. It's a machine built to distract you and to sell to you. And so we have to be intentional about it. And we have to be intentional about what voices we're listening to. Because truth isn't a destination, it's a person. That's what Jesus wants to get across. When you know my voice, when you're proximate to me. See, we overvalue the algorithm and we undervalue the people next to us. I think that's 100% true. And I think it's even true of Jesus. That we overvalue, let me research every answer I'm trying to find in life, and we undervalue, let me get alone with Jesus and try to learn his voice. Because he wants to speak to us. So what I want to do this week is I want to give you 3 questions that I want you to ask yourself if you dare. And the first one is this: who are the top 2 voices forming you online right now? And I'm not saying who you follow, who you subscribe to. What is your feed full of right now? For some of you, it's like, oh man, I know it's all this political stuff. It's this, it's that, it's the latest news. It's whatever it is that you keep clicking on. Some of you, it's like, I don't know. It's like some kind of like crochet video that like not really bringing a lot of meaning in my life, whatever it is. But it's forming you. What you focus on forms you. Would you be intentional enough to evaluate the voices that are shaping you? Would you be brave enough to say, I'm going to identify the top voices online that shape me today? And is this a good thing for you? Is this shaping your soul in a positive way? Are they seeding things in your life that you walk away from watching that and feeling like, man, I am flourishing as a result of that? And the next question is, who are the top 2 voices forming you face to face right now? Who are the people closest to you that shape you? Is that a good thing? Is that helping you flourish? Do you give them permission to speak truth into your life? Do you have the opportunity to learn from them? Have you asked them questions in order to gain truth? And maybe the best one, what would it mean to turn up the volume of the voice of Jesus in your life? What would it mean this week to say, all right, this is crazy, but no AirPods, no screens, no coffee even. I know. I'm just going to sit there in solitude and open my Bible to something Jesus would say and read it, even if it's just short, and sit with it. Then I might begin to learn the voice that I want to hear the most. Because the more time you spend with it, the more you have the ability to hear it. And I'm telling you, I think the 1,000 voices today becomes 10,000 tomorrow, becomes 1,000,000 the next day. And trying to discern them one voice at a time isn't the answer. You'll spend your whole life chasing it. The answer is to be able to hear the voice in the midst of the voices that matters the most. Let me pray for you. God, we come to you today, and I just pray that we would know your voice, that we would be people that value your voice above other voices, that we would recognize that those who are closest to us are the ones that we can trust most. And the truth is that no one wants to be closer than you. But God, in the midst of 1,000,000 voices, it's challenging to sit and listen. But may we make that choice. May we be brave enough to go on the offense and say, I'm going to do what it takes to know the voice of Jesus. That we might set ourselves of a lifetime of knowing what's true and following the one who at the end really has our best interests in mind. And I pray this in your name.